Nice. Okay, we're gonna go try and get all 4 here. Oops, agreed. Good die. Okay. Okay. Never mind. Never mind. Oh yeah, that's the fire. There's the fire. Okay, game. Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Austin in 2024. Steel ships, steel cruisers in this case. Which ones should you be getting? What order would I get these steel cruisers in? That's what I want to determine here. And today's video is on the Austin. A very fun ship, but a very situational one. So to get a decent perspective on what this ship is capable of course, we are going to push like a madman. Instantly going for the Thunderdome here, without a care in the world. Well, a little bit. Once I noticed that the GK, the battleship that had spawned over here, did not go to the flank, I knew I could probably get in here relatively easily. So what is the Austin? The Austin is essentially an up-tiered Atlanta with a funny button. This reload booster is unlimited. Yes, unlimited consumable. Notice it has a minute 45-second cooldown there, but there is no number attached to it, like the heal or perhaps our hydro, defensive fire, anything like that. You can use it an unlimited amount of times. Because of this, we want to be using it a lot, but also making the most out of it too. We don't want to just waste it. Austin's going to be a very difficult ship to play, I think, given that it is a light cruiser. We do have a bit more armor. Basically a G-Nan hull. There's a 32 mil upper plate that can protect our citadel at closer ranges. But you're still an Atlanta, sorry. You're definitely an Austin is an Austin. Yes, good. Great analysis. It is an Atlanta, so you still are very squishy, and especially if you're broadside, even angled, you're not going to be dealing with a lot of incoming fire too well. Notice our HP pool, 35,000 HP. That is including a maxed out survivability expert with the special commander on the American tree. So typically we're going to have 30,000 HP at tier 10. But this funny button's worth it, man. I gotta say, this ship is just hilarious and good fun to play. It's a really nice version of a special premium ship to go after for resources. I think it's not insanely overpowered, even though this does look pretty stupid, what damage we are able to do to these guys. Getting permanent fires, the sap is just gross, which we will talk about in a bit. But I love that this is such a unique ship available for resources. You just can't get this experience anywhere else. And that's a little unfortunate for those of you that are new to the game and want to be playing this. But I think this is a good example of what a resource ship should be. I don't think it should just be a flat-out OP ship to get people interested, and I don't think it should necessarily be a boring tech tree clone ship. I really like the Austin for steel. It's a really, really good one to get. The sap plus this reload booster just melts DDs. I think you're going to notice that the shell velocity is surprisingly good on this ship as well. So it allows you to actually hit ships at longer ranges, and the sap really does just pen everything. It is a ridiculous ammo type. Moving on though, notice we have a minute 15 second cooldown on our reload booster here. And as soon as our AA turns on, it goes down to 34 seconds. Yes, we are playing with the 4th tier upgrade for the commander that gives us better AA, but also reduces our consumable cooldown by 50% when our AA is active. If we're pushing into very aggressive positions, carriers are going to come after us. That is just how it's going to be. So if we're pushing up, we may as well get an advantage out of it. And for a ship that is so reliant on that reload booster, feels pretty good to every once in a while cut the cooldown in half for a little bit. It is excellent. Paulo Emilio looking to rush us here towards the end of this game, and surprise, torpedoes are really strong as well. These torps deal a lot of damage, They have really good range. You actually have the ability to stealth torp with this ship. The concealment is excellent here. So even though you don't have the tools of a radar cruiser, for example, if you're forced to play on a flank, hey, you can just stealth torp things if you have to. Also, you have the ability to just burst things down, stay dark, stay concealed, and then only take shots of opportunity. It's almost like a Vermont in that way, where you're waiting for that perfect opportunity to strike. It's kind of funny, where the DPM feels so bad until you pop that booster, of course. So here's an example of a game where I had to run around and dodge a sub and try and help kill a submarine for the first like 7 or 8 minutes of this game. Very enjoyable, as always. Sarcasm, that is sarcasm. Did not have fun with that. But with 16,000 damage done so far, we need to pick things up in this match. So a broadside Bourgogne offers himself up to us, and within 1 reload booster, yep, that's 40k already. Moving on, do we end up killing him here? Already up to 50k damage in this game now, and he's dead. You know, there's some team help in there, but that was 40k from that reload booster, a little more. We started with 16,000 damage before I popped that reload booster. So that is quite the salvo if we are comparing that to, say, a Vermont or any battleship, right? Just to be able to pop up from stealth and just nuke someone that quickly. Very, very, very strong. Again, playing a little too aggressive, perhaps. In this one, my team kind of left me out to dry here. So we're going to die, right? The enemy team has converged on us from all angles. I'm trying to clear this Vermont from my side, but there's a fresh Yamato going to pick up that flank. So I don't have anywhere to run here. I was having a pretty decent game so far. We were shooting down a lot of planes, helping our team kind of control the B cap here. But yeah, we are going to go down. I mentioned that there is some 32 mil plating on this ship that allows you to auto bounce certain battleship calibers at closer ranges if you angle properly. And I'll show you how to do that or what that looks like in port later. But Yamato's overmatched 32 mil armor. And there's one coming around the front and one coming around the back on us here. So there is no possible way for me to go after a ship that won't be overmatching myself. So we are dead here. As an Austin, it is essentially that we are a Citadel, and that is it. Trying to save my reload booster here to deal with the broadside of this Yamato. Maybe he misses, maybe he overbends. No, he did not. So we will go next, and both after that game, but also in this video. Moving on, I just had to show you that. This ship is not all powerful at close range, even though it is surprisingly strong against battleships at those closer ranges, as long as they don't have that 32 mil overmatch. Something you should be looking for is pushing where the enemy team allows you to. So on this map, right, we typically don't see ships push down the middle. And with our concealment, we can get in here and pop a reload booster to nuke this booster and get away still, right? People tend to play the flanks, and we can just be here. We don't need the sustained DPM. We are all about burst damage. So you're gonna look for opportunities like that where you can, you know, maybe spawn towards the C cap here and still just come over towards the middle and get a great opportunity to do some damage. So maybe instead of using your just kind of lackluster main gun DPM while the booster's on cooldown, maybe stay concealed and maneuver around the map. Try and pop up and surprise someone. That kind of thing is a really, really good tactic to run with the Austin. Since you have so much burst potential, you want to be maximizing that. You'll do a lot more damage, I think, if you're able to get in interesting, tricky, good positions with this ship while your booster is on cooldown, instead of just sitting behind one island, maybe forced to spam HE even, because this SAP, well, really strong and good pen angles. Still against angled battleships and that, you will be not doing very much damage. So here, Bourgogne turns broadside to us, the damage is amazing. But we want to be finding those broadsides, right? So it's a ship where you have to think differently than a lot of other high DPM cruisers, I think. It's a tricky one to play. I'm going to be totally honest with you here. This is not an easy ship to play. Stalingrad probably is easier to play, even though it does lack some armor and is pretty big. Worse concealment, can get farmed down pretty easily. And if you show broadside, it gets nuked. But I still think Austin's probably a little harder to play. Light cruisers are not easy at high tier. Schlieffen, though, manages to eat one of our torpedoes. Here's an excellent example of there's no islands around here. There is no teammates really around here either. How can we play? Well, even when you're alone, you have decent concealment, so you can spot for yourself a lot of the time. And if you land a torpedo, forcing out a damage control, well, you've got this reload booster to light some permanent fires. Schlieffen's got a pretty quick cooldown on its damage control, so I'm not expecting this to kill him. But maybe we can get ourselves a few permanent fires. Already got one. There's the second. I was looking for all 4. Don't worry, I will come back to that clip we looked at in the start of this video, the intro to this video. We're going to look at it. Don't you worry. But in this case, we do manage to get 3 out of the 4 on the Schlieffen there. And then we go dark, right? I'm not going to push it too much further than my reload booster. I know my DPM is worthless when I don't have the booster available to me, so it's much more valuable to maximize that potential damage when we have the booster up versus when we don't. May as well go dark and save ourselves some HP for the next time we can use our booster, which is now, because our booster is available. Ohio damage controls a single fire, and now we will wait for that little flashing light on the side of his ship that lets us know his damage control immunity period is going on. And then we're going to pop our reload booster to try and relight some fires. This is a great tactic to use. Notice we're also spamming these torpedoes out. They are very, very strong torpedoes, so we want to be making use of them as well. There we go. Damage control is gone, so now we have the ability to light permanent fires. And we're not getting them still. We're still going to get, I think, 1 here. Maybe 2. But you can see that the RNG isn't always the kindest with this ship. That's why I am typically looking for those opportunities to spam SAP rather than HE on people. Because, well, fires are very strong. They can kill battleships rather quickly when you get the permanent ones. It's going to tick for a lot of damage here, these 2 fires. It's still RNG-based damage, right? Whereas the SAP is much, much more consistent. So, now that there's a double fire on one Ohio, let's try and light some fires on the other one, shall we? May as well rotate fires here. No point in still farming this Ohio, unless we wanted to take him out quicker, right? Sometimes that is the right play, to focus one target down entirely with our team. But I think in this case, spreading out the fires, or at least getting 1 fire on the other Ohio, would be a good idea for us. That way, we can still do a little bit of chip damage, and then once our teammates are here to help us a bit more, maybe we will take them both out. That's kind of the idea here. But notice the shell arcs. These are very easy shells to hit. We don't have the best range. This is only 14 kilometers away from Ohio. Again, open water, not easy to do as a cruiser, especially as a light cruiser. That 32 mil plate will be helping us here, though, against Ohio's. Finally do get ourselves a follow-up fire. The DPM, though, is pretty painful when we don't have the booster up, and that's fine because we do have a booster. But it is something to make note of if you're someone who's looking for a ship that has more sustained DPM, or that's what you're used to. It's a very different ship to use. It plays very, very differently. You are looking to, again, maximize those fires. Swapping back to the SAP here to deal with this Ohio. He's more than broadside enough for us to get some really nice damage into his superstructure here. Unfortunately, our Annapolis goes down, as well as the Kurfürst, and our Vermont went down earlier, so this is quickly getting out of hand as our team is dying here. Unfortunately, it was a rather small match thanks to super ships. Unfortunately, on North America these days, we are struggling with player population at high tier, and the game is forcing a lot of these small matches with super ships. 5-minute queues are the maximum you can be in, and unfortunately, that means we get pulled into some of these small games when people sit in queue for 5 minutes with super ships. Feels bad. Personally, wish they would change that so that super ships can sit in queue for an unlimited amount of time, and that way we would get full games. But I will save that rant for another time, because we should look at the Austin. This ship has 32 mil armor, right? It should be able to auto-bounce Ohio if we angle correctly, and that correct angle is somewhere in the 25 to 30 degree range. So, if we can angle like that, we should get dev struck. I was very confused by this when I was playing this. I thought for sure I was going to bounce some of that salvo, at least not take citadels. But what I want you to notice here is our angle. We're actually hit at a perfect 25 degree angle when these shells hit. And these shells hit towards the stern of our ship, which means they're not even going to pen through our bow, a weakness that I will show you I'm looking to deal with later. So still confused by how that happened, but it happened. We are a light cruiser, so even though our armor should be helping us there, our game knowledge unfortunately failed us down to, I don't know. The game told us you may think you know everything, but you don't. So obviously, still have to learn how to play this game, right? Finally, back to this clip. I had to do this as the intro because I thought it was just so funny. Rather depressing when I was playing it, first of all. But perhaps you've been thinking to yourself, or while the clip was on, why didn't you wait a little bit longer? Surely the damage control was still on, right? There's no way you're gonna get 88 hits without a fire. Well, I went back to the replay to check. So, here we are, farming this Montana. The lights are flashing, those are the important ones. That means he is immune to damage. The little weld sparks, that's his heal. But the flashing light, that is the immunity of the damage control. And the lights go out. Still haven't popped my booster, by the way. We waited. So now I pop it. He's liable to take damage here. He can take permanent fires here, right? All these 88 hits. We can light a fire at any time, game. Unfortunate. Kind of funny that in the replay, so many of my shells look like they just missed entirely and splashed in the water behind them, yet still counted as hits. Kind of weird. And unfortunately, it's really not even like our fire chance is all that bad on this ship. We have 10% fire chance. That's pretty decent considering 88 shell hits can be bursted out that quickly on someone without a damage control. Okay, I'm gonna let it go, but that is the explanation behind the initial clip of this video. Rather unlucky. But let's talk about the build here. 9.3 detect is the maximum you can get here. It's also a very quick ship, pretty maneuverable as well. So this all helps you a ton in repositioning this ship to take advantage of that amazing sap, right? And the real secret here is that you pen 36 millimeters. So that's not going to be the upper belt of an Ohio or a Montana, but what that can do is if you find yourself a Yamato or a lot of other battleships have 32 millimeter plating, a lot of the area of their ships. So that's just free real estate, man. That is just free damage. And that's why we just crushed Bourgognes in this video and a few other ships with 32 mil plating. Of course, if you find yourself against German battleships, well, yeah, there's only a tiny bit of 32 mil plating you can go for. That's why we go for the superstructure. And honestly, the sap is still going to do immense damage there. We'll look at the armor in a second, though. I will explain how to angle this ship properly to hopefully not get dev struck at closer ranges. Still don't know how that Ohio got me there. It's fine. You know, you're a light cruiser. It should happen, to be honest with you. A light cruiser shouldn't really get away with rushing an Ohio down. But given how the game is, I feel like maybe we should have. I don't know. At least how it's designed currently. AA in defense and ASW expert here. Sure, it helps our AA, but the main thing here is ship consumable preparation and reload. 50% cooldown while the AA is active. So useful. I really like it on the Austin here. I might have to try it on some other ships which are very consumable dependent, but certainly for Austin, where we are all in on that reload booster. Survivability expert here with the Ovechkin Commander gives us that little bit extra, so 35,700 HP. Still recommend survivability expert. You want as much HP as you can. This is ridiculously low at this tier. Of course, going concealment, adrenaline rush, we get free heavy HE and sap, because the consumable concealment penalty only applies when your guns are above 149 millimeters. So for us, that means it's free, since our gun caliber is 127 millimeter. Notice I'm not taking Superintendent. Really only would take it for the 5th heal. I don't think we need 4 hydros or 5 defensive fires necessarily. And honestly, I'd rather have the survivability expert than that 5th heal. I think that's going to help us out more. And like we've already talked about, that reload booster is unlimited, so we don't need to take Superintendent for it. We are, of course, taking Consumable Specialist. This now impacts all of our consumables except for damage control and repair, so we get that back even quicker. So combining these two upgrades here, the AA one for 4 points, Consumable Specialist, that does bring down the downtime or the reload time on this booster quite a bit. So 75% reload reduction for 15 seconds. Pretty powerful. And we get it back in 105 seconds, which is 1:45 seconds. So still quite a long reload, but as you saw, a little bit of AA, ASW planes, fighter planes, anything like that will reduce it little by little, and that is very helpful. As for the upgrades here that I would recommend, I would go like this here. Propulsion mod, very, very useful for speed juking, but also just maneuvering around islands, very handy with this ship. I'm going with reload here, not range. You could make the argument for range just because the shell arcs are so flat, but 15 is good enough. And sometimes that extra range can be your downfall, actually, because that extra range means when you're firing, you get spotted out to that extra range as well. So there are situations like pushing the middle of map on Sea of Fortune. No, that's not Sea of Fortune. Sleeping Giant? Sleeping Giant. Pushing the middle of the map there on Sleeping Giant to deal with that Worcester. Well, extra range might have meant we were spotted a little sooner or longer while we were firing, that kind of thing. Certain islands are usable only when you have smaller gun range, just because they're open to a specific side of the map. But if you don't have the range to get out to those people, well, they won't be spotting you by firing. That's kind of how that works. So Austin, a very, very fun ship. Very situational, very hard to play. Let's take a look at this armor real quick. 32 mil plating. And our citadel is quite large, right? So that's the thing. If you're broadside, you're probably going to get hit pretty hard. Although it's pretty skinny, so you might just take overpens. It might be one of those where you just sit broadside and just laugh as all the battleships try to just citadel you, and all they get are overpens. Great game mechanic there. Anyways, sarcasm again. I'm sorry. I'll probably go in a little too hard on that this video, but here at this angle, right? This is the angle we want to be at, where the 32 mil plating is going to be angled enough to auto bounce things. That's that 25-ish degree angle. If we're shooting our rear guns, that's open enough that we can be citadeled here. But the thought is, I mean, in the video, the Ohio hit us here and citadeled us. So I don't understand. But the problem with going directly bow in is, well, 16 gets overmatched. Then this is not angled, so that just gets penned very easily, 32 mil. And then, of course, here, it just goes into your citadel. So the key is, this corner of your citadel, you need to line up with the very edge of the 32 mil plating. So you want the 32 mil plating to be angled enough to auto bounce, and that to just protect this here. Notice this citadel is just so far underwater, you're not hitting that ever. So here, notice how this is going to be angled enough, and if we pull that armor away, well, it's going to be perfectly protecting that citadel corner behind us. So if they hit up here, where they can overmatch, and then they can pen this, well, it's just going to go out the other side of the ship, right? There's no citadel here. It starts here. So that's the whole idea. If you're angling like that, you should be auto-bouncing stuff below 460, so 457s and below. But didn't work in this one. I desperately wanted that to work. I was pretty sad about that because I wanted to show you a clip of that working. We did a little bit of that in this video, but a real perfect example like that, like 6 kilometers from an Ohio, a very strong battleship, and just to auto-bounce it all, especially when he hits me here, man, disappointed. But hey, it can work, and I have shown that off in some other videos. Unfortunately, did not get it in this session, but certainly Austin plays very, very well. If you're good with light cruisers, you're going to have a blast in this thing. It is so, so much fun, and plays very differently from a lot of those other light cruisers in the game. So very unique playstyle, very fun, and in the right hands, very powerful. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, look forward to the video after we take a look at Plymouth and the Vallejo. That's the other one. 2 more of these steel cruisers to go. And I will be ranking them in the order which I would get them. But Austin's looking pretty good so far. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.